Welcome back to Hot Takes Cool Updates, the podcast where two friends from high school reunite and discuss trivial opinions that people for some reason feel strongly about, and we update each other along the way. I am Lacey, that's Jenna, and today we are doing part 2 of Mandela effects. We're going to get into the examples of what Mandela effects are. So Jenna, go ahead and take it away.
I just want to real quick, what I want to do is just real back to back. I want to say a bunch of classic common examples that I hear all the time, and I want you to just say like if you had that happen to you or not. We won't spend a whole bunch of time on these ones because they're classic ones.
Okay.
I want to get more deep into things that I didn't know and see if that I feel aren't as common, and see if you felt the same way. There's the classic Berenstein bears with the E, so the BERENSTEIN. Did you have that memory, or did you have the memory of the Berenstain with the AIN?
This is going to be an unpopular answer, and I know that it's going to be, but I promise you I have seen books in my classroom, and if I can take a picture of it, I will, that have both spellings.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding. I have books in the classroom with both spellings of STEIN and STAIN. And
so you have proof. That's really interesting.
I'm really hoping that again, it's not a foot in the mouth situation. When I get back, I was just like, oh, that's just a cursive E, and like it was actually an A, or an A that was actually E, or whatever. Like, I'm really hoping I don't end up like eating my words for this, but that's at least, like, I swear to you, I have both. Like, at least, again, like this is the blonde, naturally, everybody, Lacey, that we're talking about here. So like, take my words for the little pennies that they are, but I swear it's both. Like.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I would like, if you end up finding that, maybe we'll have some show notes, and we'll post some pics to Patreon, and then you have to subscribe to figure out if she finds the book. All right. So next one, Jeff versus Jiffy peanut butter.
Jif.
And
I remember that. I remember Jif, and here's why. Because my mom's boss at the time was named Jeff, and I thought you spelled Jeff, JIF, like the peanut butter at home. And that's the only reason I remember Jif. So if you tell me it's Jiffy, I'm going to poop my pants, honestly.
Well, okay, so they do say it is Jeff.
Okay.
But I remember Jiffy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because or at least my family always called it Jiffy, but I remember Jiffy.
What's interesting about that is that I remember my parents being like, will you get the Jiffy peanut butter?
Yeah.
So I remember them calling it Jiffy, but I remember it saying Jif. I don't know if that makes sense.
So the next one, Febreze, but spelled like FEBREZE, or Febreze spelled FEBREEZE.
The first one, for sure.
Yeah, so it's the first one, but again, I personally remember the second one with the like extra E in it. That's how I remember it.
Interesting. Yeah, because I always was like, again, it's one of those things where it was like, I thought that's how you spelled breeze, and I would look at the Febreze bottle and I would spell breeze, BREZE, thinking that's how you spell, and then of course I was wrong, and me being like, but again, if it wasn't for those like core memories for me, I probably would have the same like BREEZE memory, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm ruining this Mandela effect thing.
Yeah. This is kind of the point, though. It's like that it proves that we have two different memories of this, because it's like, and for reference, like we've talked about this before, we're 1 year apart in age, 2-year grade apart. We went to the same junior high and high school, but we also lived in separate towns and went to separate elementary schools. So we grew up, are born and went to and grew up in different cities and went to different elementary schools, if that makes a difference.
Right, that's true. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
But also, I don't know if that can make a difference or not. So one that I just thought of off the top of my head while we were talking about these spelling ones, JCPenney. I don't have this down in my notes.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
JCPENNEY?
Okay, so that's the correct spelling. But you know what's so funny? Because we were talking about core memories. I have a core memory. What would happen? My mom would make me go to church, like elementary school. In church, my mom would make me go to church on Sundays because my mom and my aunt and my grandma all went to the same church. So my mom, my aunt, my grandma, and I would all go to church, and afterwards, my mom would always drag me with them to J.C. Penney and would go shopping. Like that would be our Sunday.
That's cool.
But I just have this vision of J.C. Penney, the sign. I remember asking her, "Is that how you spell penny?" And it being penny. You know, I don't know.
Really?
I could be wrong because I was also very young.
Here's something else to like consider in this. Like, I have a JCPenney credit card because I'm one of those people. So if I wasn't paying like a monthly bill to JCPenney, I probably wouldn't know how to spell JCPenney. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm just saying it does have that extra E before the Y, but I just kind of not like it just popped in my head. I'm like, wow, like did it have that extra E before the Y when I was a kid? Chime off in the somewhere. Chime off somewhere. Let us know. Email us at Hot Takes Cool Updates if you remember JCPenney as a kid and if it had the E before the Y at the end.
That is Hot Takes Cool Updates at Gmail, just for those people who are wondering if it's Yahoo or whatever. We're Gmail people over here.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know. Okay. I'm only going to do a couple more of the classic ones because we've been talking for a while, and then we'll move on to the ones I didn't know. Of course, there's the Monopoly Man that has he doesn't have the monocle, but I remember him with the monocle.
He absolutely had the monocle, and I will throw things.
Do you remember whether the Mona Lisa was smiling or not?
She wasn't.
Right. Because I believe she wasn't smiling.
She was not smiling.
But she's actually smiling.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, so we agree on that one. We agree on Monopoly Man. Did you know that the Flintstones have 2 T's in the word Flintstones?
Flintstones, yeah, because it was like a type of rock.
Okay, because I remember without the first T. I remember Flintstones. That's how I remember it.
Oh, wait, that's the Jetsons.
Flintstones. That is the
Jetsons. Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones.
Is it?
It's a yabba yabba do time.
Yeah.
Flintstones. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But when it's so late, like especially singing, like it's kind of lazy. Like meet the Flintstones. Like you don't want to pronounce the T there.
Yeah. So it could be. Yeah, it could be that. Or do you know what I'm talking about? If I say the portrait of King Henry VIII. Okay. There's a classic one when he has like the hat, standing with the cape and everything. My memory is that he had a turkey leg. And he doesn't with them. Like the one hand is holding a turkey leg.
That's interesting. Because now that you say it, yeah, he does have a turkey leg.
Yeah. But for the record, apparently now we live in the timeline where he doesn't have one.
And the reason I'm pretty sure that's the thing. I think there was like a Simpsons special off of that or something. Homer was like King Henry VIII or something. And I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But like.
That'd be interesting to look up and maybe we can post about that somewhere.
Yeah, interesting.
One of the other common ones is, of course, Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer spelled Mayer versus Oscar Mayer spelled Meyer.
Mey, right?
I had the memory of Meyer, but it's apparently spelled Mayer, like John Mayer.
Mayer. I guess that makes sense with the song. Oscar Mayer has a way of I mean that's more pronounced, but I remember the spelling Me.
Yeah, me too. I remember the 2 E's, the double E's. And the last kind of classic common one is the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Cornucopia. I will die on that. Because I remember there was a Thanksgiving where I wanted to make cornucopias at the table because I wanted to be like, and then have the fruit coming out of it because I remember like it being on the shirts or whatever it was that I was wearing at the time. I'm like, that's Thanksgiving stuff right there. Let's get a cornucopia. So that the fact that they don't have it is baloney. I refuse to believe that.
Would it be a Oscar Mayer baloney?
But
But all these things that I've mentioned and remembering it the wrong way, that's why I'm having the issue with Mandela effects, that every single one of these things that I've mentioned, I remember it wrong. And it's not just me, it's like other people too.
Yeah,
So let's kind of move on to, I have a whole list here, which I don't have to go all over all of them, but I have a bunch of things where I just learned about these today, and it's really obnoxious. So Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, do you remember him having an Adam's apple? or not?
That's a good question.
Or maybe you can even Google him for reference and see
I mean,
if he
I
looks
remember
like.
who Shaggy looks like, so let me.
I mean, just kind of like.
He had an Adam's apple, because I remember when I was one of my ex-boyfriends that we both know, I remember like he kind of had a Shaggy type of vibe to him.
I like how I know exactly like who you're talking about.
The reason that I thought he had a Shaggy like thing about him was because of his Adam's apple. Yeah. He had an Adam's apple.
Apparently he doesn't, but we both remember him.
He absolutely does, and I'm calling baloney.
The another thing, I feel like you'll know what I'm talking about with this one. So I Love Lucy.
Okay.
What does her husband Ricky always say to Lucy?
Honey, I'm home. Is that am I thinking of the right show?
Oh, I thought maybe you would know this one. You know, to me, when I think of I Love Lucy and I think of what he always said, I always think, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Oh yeah, I clearly have never really watched the show, so I'm over here like
I don't know why in my mind I thought you would be automatically like, oh yep, I know that. So so in my core memory, and I did watch I Love Lucy growing up. In my memory, Ricky, every time something would happen, Ricky would always say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Apparently he never said that. So, you know, we don't have to go on about this.
I'm sure that's interesting to a lot of people. I'm sorry I have not seen it. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we'll move on.
Of course he didn't.
Yeah. We'll move on. Here's a music one that maybe you'll kind of know. Okay. You know the song by Queen called We Are the Champions?
Yes, of course.
Okay, you know, at the very end of it trails off. He says, "We are the champions.
We are the champions." Yeah.
And then he trails off. The very last sentence of the song is, "We are the champions." In my mind,
of the world.
Yes, he ends with "of the world." In my mind, he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
What does he say?
He just says, "We are the champions." He doesn't say "of the world." The very last line.
That's the last thing, though. Like, I'm gonna look that up later because that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, because the problem with it is that my parents were very big '80s rock fans. Like, I listened to so much Queen growing up, and so much like Chicago and Journey and all these different 80s bands I listened to all the time. Foreigner, like all these different like bands.
Yeah.
Queen was a big hit for me personally as a child because I loved Freddie Mercury. I loved how his personality, I loved the style that he had. I loved how he was authentically him. I loved Queen's music like as a child. I just remember listening to this song.
Yeah.
Like, because I even remember the car that my dad had. I remember it was between in the year 2000 when I moved to the city that we lived together. I remember moving to that city, and I was burning CDs for my parents because they didn't know how to do it. So for anyone who doesn't know, you had to, like, back in the day, like, download songs illegally off the internet, and then you had a program that was already on your computer, and you'd call them burning CDs. You'd have to download the MP3 and they can like rip it onto this, the compact disc.
You burnt me so many CDs in our time.
Yeah. Well, I was doing that. My brother and I were doing it since like the year like 2000. So I remember doing that because that's when we got a computer. So I remember doing that for my dad. And I remember one of the songs I remember downloading, him a Queen's album. And I remember being in his car, the car that he had that time. I remember that specific car that he had and listening to that song. And I remember that song, I would ask him to play over and over. And I would ask him to play Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson over and over. And I know those songs. I listened to them because he would pick me up every day after school. So every day after school, I would ask him to play those songs over and over for like a year. So I remember those two songs.
That's so interesting to me.
So we're on the same terms with that. Pretty close with the Green, like pretty much having the same memories. For the most part, we're both wrong with having the same memories and it being wrong. The next one. Did you watch any WWE growing up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a picture of The Rock in my room.
That's great because that's exactly who I want to talk to you about.
Let's do it. What about my boy?
What was our?
Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? Absolutely. Sorry,
Exactly.
continue.
Guess what?
What?
That's wrong.
No, it's not. That is what it is. I live and breathe Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
I'm so glad you have a distinct memory of this, because this is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. Apparently, his catchphrase was, "If you smell what the Rock is cooking, not can."
No. I have the microphone up here. And no, that is baloney.
Yes. I remember too. I wasn't really big on The Rock, but my brother was into WWE. I have an older brother who would beat the heck out of me by doing all the wrestling moves on me.
As all brothers should.
Yeah, how a big brother should. He was practicing he would watch a wrestling move on TV, then do the wrestling move on me. I have a distinct memory of this because I got beat up all the time. And so I remember The Rock saying, "Can you smell what the Rock is," like him yelling.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't listened to the theme song, but apparently that's, I don't know. That's
if you smell. No, it's not. If that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So
okay. Well,
I'm glad we agree.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we agree that it's wrong, even though it says we're wrong.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah. Let's move on. You can have a crisis later.
That's fine.
Do you remember Richard Simmons?
Yeah.
For those who don't remember, he was like a workout guru. He's the classic person who, when you think of 80s workout videos, Richard Simmons is the person for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you know that he never wore headbands or wristbands? You know, the classic like sweatbands?
Oh, I'm sorry. I realized that we're doing a podcast, so people can't see like my dazed off look and my
reaction,
questioning face.
Yeah, when you picture Richard Simmons,
I feel like I don't remember a hairband because like his hair was very much part of his personality, but I could have sworn with the wristbands that was the thing.
That's where I definitely remember.
I could have sworn doing jumping jacks with Richard Simmons, like as a kid, with my mom trying to get in shape.
Yeah, and he had the wristbands.
Well then, okay.
Yeah. I have a twofer with Britney Spears. So a classic one is that the one that I've heard about come up recently is the video of "Oops, I Did It Again," where she's wearing that like red jumpsuit. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if it's like leather or whatever it is. That red suit that's very clings to her body.
Right.
I have a memory of her wearing having a black microphone going to her face, kind of like in front of her face.
So I might know too much about Britney Spears. She did that for her live performances, but she didn't do it for her music video.
Okay, so it wasn't in her music video.
It's not in her music video, but it was in most of her live performances. I knew too much. I'm sorry.
Help me with the second one.
Okay.
The second one, the "Hit Me Baby One More Time" music video, where she's dressed like a schoolgirl, right, with the white tie up in the front. Okay, her skirt. Do you remember what her skirt looks like?
Wasn't it plaid?
I thought it was plaid too. Apparently, it's just straight black.
Oh, wow. Maybe I don't know a lot about Britney Spears. I could have sworn it was plaid.
Well, me too, but also it's a Mandela effect, right? Like,
yeah.
And it could be one of those things. I'm going to try to explain it away here, where you think of a schoolgirl outfit, you think of a plaid skirt, right?
Yeah.
It could be a collective false memory of, what goes with a schoolgirl outfit, a plaid skirt. It could be a collective false memory like that.
That's true. That could be it for sure.
Yeah, but just kind of what I remember is a plaid skirt, and she had pigtails too, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the white like shirt that kind of wrapped up in the front. So
yeah.
Okay, the painting. The painting, the scream, where like the person has like the hands to their face.
What?
Look up Google the painting called The Scream. You'll probably know it when you look at it.
Painting.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what the Scream is. I don't know why I thought you said the Ping team, like the Ping Ping team TAM. I was like, what is the Ping team? Is that like a band that I totally missed out on as a kid as well?
Welcome to the Ping team on today's podcast. Change your name.
That's hilarious. Okay, the painting, the Scream. Yes.
For reference, for the audio listeners, he has It's that classic where he has that kind of like the rounded head with the big eyes, the big open mouth, kind of the Kevin McAllister face, hands up to it. Apparently, the individual screaming in the picture has a gold bracelet around its wrist.
Really?
Yeah. Or on its arm, on one of its arms, it has a gold bracelet.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's really a Mandela effect or just like people not noticing things.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all.
But it can't just be we weren't very observant.
Right. Well, that's 100% what it is for me, at least.
Yeah. So next one, the phrase or the kind of thing of, what is it, Lassie? Did Timmy fall in the well? That kind of thing.
Okay.
It was from, from the TV, or was it just called Lassie, the TV show, or
I know the saying, I don't know the show.
Yeah, same here. So I know the saying, I don't know the show, but apparently in the show that never happened. No one ever said, what is it, Lassie? Did Timmy fell in the well? Apparently there's no episode where where Timmy fell in a well. There's no episode where someone said that.
That's insane to me, because I remember my dog, like my parents, that would be one of the main things that they would say to my dog every time it was barking. They'd be like, what is it? Whatever the dog's name was, like, what is it, Frodo? Is Timmy in the well? And the dog would go nuts and they'd act like they're following it to the well or whatever. And so like, that's like a core memory even for my parents too.
Yeah. Apparently there was never an episode where Timmy specifically fell in the well. Timmy was the boy that had Lassie. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know enough. Like I never watched it, but I, know the reference. But
right. Yeah.
Apparently the reference doesn't exist.
That's nuts. I wonder where that came from. I'll have to look that up later.
Yeah. Another thing, Benjamin Franklin. What do you know about him and in regard to electricity?
Didn't he like take a kite and like a key and like go out in a stormy weather and like wait for lightning to hit or something?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. And what I remember, the kind of, I guess it's a myth of him inventing electricity. Like in my mind, he invented electricity.
Oh,
but he didn't.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I just remember like there was like a part. It wasn't like he invented electricity. It's that he figured out something about electricity that no one had figured out before, kind of thing.
Yeah, so you're right. So with his kite experiment, which was I was looking it up. It was a test to if electricity could be stored in clouds and if it could be stored for future use, kind of like a battery.
Cool.
His kite experiment. The other thing with the kite experiment and the key experiment, was some people believe that his kite was struck by lightning when he was going to do that. And some people believe that, but it never was.
Okay.
He was never struck by lightning. And part of that is that if that were true, if he were struck by lightning, he would have probably been killed because the lightning would have went through the kite, through the string to his body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people think he created the lightning rod. He did not create that.
I didn't think he did.
Yeah. So some of those things I don't really have a memory of those things, but I kind of my memory is a little fuzzy of like, did he invent electricity? I was kind of like, my memory is a little fuzzy. And again, I remember he had a kite, but what did he do with it? So
right.
Those things I don't have an issue with, but that was kind of like three Mandela effects in one.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, for sure.
Some people had multiple things with him about him wrong. This one, you may already, I have a feeling you're going to really be able to have an opinion on this one. The lion and the lamb in the Bible.
Okay.
Does it exist?
No.
Okay,
I don't believe it does.
Okay, great. So there's the Mandela effect. I miss remembering of the imagery of a lion and a lamb with the Bible. And some people say that in Isaiah, that there was the passage of the lion and the lamb, mentioned the lion and the lamb laying together, but it's actually, I looked it up, it was actually the wolf and the lamb, or at least from my research.
Okay, I'm sure you're right about that. I don't recall any of it, but I do know that the reason that I knew the answer to that is because my mom always talked about the lion and the lamb, lion and the lamb, lion and the lamb, and then when she came to the conclusion that was just a Mandela effect thing, way before, she's like, I always thought that was in the Bible and it's just crazy that it's not. So that's the only reason I knew. Without that, I probably would have been like, yeah, that's in the Bible.
Well, yeah, that's why I kind of figured you'd already know like ahead of time of that sort of thing, that you'd be automatically like, no, that doesn't exist. Y'all are dumb. So that's kind of like where I was going with it. I figured you probably already know. This one is a new one that I learned not today, but a couple days ago, which really bothered me. You know, the rear view mirrors, you know, the little side mirror beside the passenger door and the driver's side door. You know those little words and the writing?
Objects and mirrors seem closer than they appear, or something like that.
Yeah. So in my memory, in my personal memory, it says objects in mirror may be closer than they appear.
Okay.
Apparently, it truly says objects in mirror are closer than they appear.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting that you say, because when you say both, I'm like, I remember both somehow. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. Like, was it maybe like at one point that, and then it changed to the other? Like, I would have to, because I don't know. It's one of those. I could recall, but what was it, like the suggestibility thing? Like, I feel like that's where that comes into play for me, at least.
Yeah. Let me do a couple more, because I know we're pretty far on time. Do you remember learning about what the longest river is in America?
In America?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Mississippi, but I don't remember learning that in particular. I remember like the longest river in the world, but not necessarily the longest in America. No.
Yeah, because
I want to say Mississippi though.
Yeah, because I remember learning the Mississippi as well, but apparently it's the Missouri River, which I've never even heard of. So
okay,
I was just kind of a thing that kind of was annoying. Did you listen to the song Billie Jean by Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
There's a part where he's saying, people always told me, be careful what you do and don't go around breaking young girls' heart. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, and blank always told me, be careful of who you love and be careful of what you do, because the lie becomes the truth. So it's and blank always told me, be careful who you love.
Mama?
See, I thought it was mama too. And again, my parents were, especially my dad, were very, very big Michael Jackson fans. It's apparently mother, not mama.
Okay.
But I remember mama always told me, be careful who you love. So
interesting.
That was really annoying to me.
Yeah.
Last one that we'll do here, and we'll wrap it up. You watched The Wizard of Oz a lot growing up?
Not a lot, mostly because I was afraid of the flying monkeys.
Well, that's valid too. Dorothy's socks, because they always showed her ruby slippers, right?
Yeah.
What color were her socks?
White with frills.
Exactly what I thought too.
Yeah.
Apparently they're blue.
No one wears blue with red socks though. Like, no one should be wearing like any socks with those shoes, to be fair, but like, or maybe no shows, but I realized like at the time, white with frills. No, I'm not, I don't believe you.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of like a baby blue, like a light blue, apparently.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Okay, well, that's wrong, but
that's wrong, but okay.
But I have to live with it, so.
Wow, that okay. I'm shooketh.
Yeah. So that's all that I have for you.
Well, thank you all for listening to Hot Takes Cool Updates. If you would like to connect with us and tell us maybe some Mandela effects that you remember that we didn't mention, or any like comments or tips that like we might have forgotten to add, you can always email us at hottakescoolupdates@gmail.com. We'd be glad to hear your thoughts on the topic we discussed, or your suggestions on what we can talk about next. You can also find us now on YouTube and TikTok for clips, shorts, and potential content. If you'd like to support your favorite entertainment podcast, you can find us on Patreon and receive a bunch of exclusive perks.
Exclusive perks!
Thanks for tuning in, y'all!
Bye!